All machines are different. Therefore, it's important to refer to the actual machine's operator's manual for machine specifics prior to use. This inspection should only be done by a trained operator who has either been familiarized with the unit or has been given the time to self-familiarize. See the IPAF familiarization statement and the employer-nominated person. The operator should be suitably dressed as per a risk assessment and/or specific site requirements. This might include the wearing of a hard hat, suitable footwear, gloves, goggles, etc. Unless the risk assessment states otherwise, it's not normally necessary to wear a harness in a vertical type aerial work platform. For more information, see the IPAF harness statement at www.ipaf.org. Identify a safe place to do the pre-use checks away from other people, mobile machinery, and vehicles, and without the risk of impact with overhead obstructions or power lines. Before work commences, only machines with proof of a current annual inspection should be used. Inspect the machine by following a logical order. There are checklists available as a reminder and instructions within the machine's operating manual. Starting with the machine in the lowered position, working clockwise from the ground controls, visually inspect the machine for damage, cracks, leaks, damaged or missing components, excessive wear, and decal condition. First, disconnect the charge wire for any electrical machines. Check the machine does not function without the key. For example, this can be done by checking the key switch works and that the other controls do not work with the key in the off position or with the emergency stop in. Then remove the key before proceeding with the inspection. Examine the ground for oil under the machine. This can often be the first hint at a potential problem. Check the tires, remembering that some solid or foam-filled tires may have a bolt head showing opposite the valve. Measure the tire pressure on pneumatic tires. Look for cuts, splits, exposed braiding, and damage to tread or tire walls. Look for cracked or damaged rims. Inspect the wheel security by looking for loose, damaged, or missing nuts or retainers. There should be no leaking on either side of the wheel hub. Check for loose or bent components, pins, and fasteners. Inspect the steps for damage or debris. Check the chassis decals and plate for important information and warnings. Look around the pothole protection devices for debris and watch for damage to pothole protection bars. Ensure catches and hinges are functioning properly when raised and secure when closed. Make sure the fuel level is sufficient for the day. With the machine fully stowed, also check the hydraulic oil level. Visually inspect the hydraulic manifold for leaks. Look for loose or damaged or exposed wires, as well as damaged or leaking hoses. Next, insert the key and turn to the ground controls. Pull the stop out and examine the slope warning device for full free movement and function. Then remove the key and re-engage the stop. Check that any hoses and wires are not loose or in a position where they may become trapped in the scissor stack. Look for leaks, frayed or damaged hoses. Also do this around the base by the main ram, which we'll do again later in the inspection as well. Examine the scissor arms for structural cracks, weld cracks, damage, and misalignment. Look closely at pivot pins and securing fasteners. Check the wear pads for excessive wear or missing pads. The platform guardrails often fold down for ease of transportation or access through low doorways. Therefore, it's important to check all pins, bolts, and fasteners carefully. The platform should not be damaged or have cracked welds. Make sure that the decals are clear and readable, confirming safe working load, maximum persons, and wind speed as you do so. Ensure any gates open inward and that the gates or openings close securely and have not been tied open. Check the machine document holder or black box for the ANSI Manual of Responsibilities and the Operator's Manual, and make reference to it as required. Perform inspections of the wheel area as before. Also check the chassis base as was done before. Depending on whether you're using a diesel, electric, gas, or dual fuel machine, you'll need to do the appropriate inspections. Check any radiator coolant level and hoses. Battery inspections are essential. This requires the wearing of the appropriate personal protective equipment. In the case of a lead-acid battery, the inspection should include isolating the battery where possible and removing the tops off all batteries in a well-ventilated area to allow any collected gases to disperse. Then monitor the electrolyte levels and top off battery cells if required as per the manufacturer's manual. Replace the tops, check for battery security, loose connections, or corrosion, then close the service compartment and reconnect any battery isolators. Check for damage or leaking hoses and cables. Ensure catches and hinges are functioning properly when opened and secure when closed. The ground control decals should be clear and visible for each control. Insert the key and turn to ground control. Visually check again for hazards and personnel who might be affected. Start the engine and elevate the scissor stack just sufficiently to engage the scissor prop if required. Lower the scissor stack slightly using the emergency lowering control so the scissor stack is resting on the prop. Then confirm that the emergency stop works. Leaving the emergency stop in, proceed to visually check for damage or leaks around the hoses, O-rings, pins, and retainers, limit switches, structural bolts, and welds. Do not reach inside the scissor stack unless the scissor prop has been deployed and engaged. Also check the condition of the bumpers. When satisfied, elevate the scissor stack slightly and disengage the scissor prop. Lower the scissor stack and return to the ground control function test. Visually check again for hazards and personnel who might be affected. Then restart the machine engine and check all remaining ground controls are functioning fully. Then stop the engine, pull the emergency stop out, and turn the key to the platform control before proceeding to the platform control function test. Use 3 points of contact for access to the platform on the steps and through the platform gate. Ensure the sliding deck has full free movement, is free of debris, and locks at all set distances. The decals should be clear and visible for each control. Make sure the engine does not start with the stop in, then start the engine. Check that the function enable works. This is sometimes foot operated and sometimes hand operated. By moving short distances, check the working of the drive, forwards and backwards, steer, left and right, and brakes. The drive should be high speed with the scissor in the lowered position. To test the pothole protection devices, place an obstruction, like a piece of wood, under one of the pothole protection devices. Step into the platform and elevate the machine to 6 feet. Check that the drive function is disabled, and then do the same for the other side. Check for overhead hazards, and then raise the vertical to check the elevated drive speed is functional. Stop the engine and check the auxiliary power or emergency lower controls. Then restart the engine and inspect any other vertical functions, remembering to always look in the direction of travel prior to movement. Finally, drive the machine onto a test gradient as per the manufacturer's manual to check the oscillating axles are functional and wheels remain in contact with the ground. On machines without oscillating axles, this is also to ensure the slope sensor activates and prevents elevation. Once satisfied, park the machine on firm level ground. Having completed the visual and function test, the machine should be safe to use. Don't forget to document that you've done the inspection. Always refer to the manufacturer's manual for specific machine details. If any defects are identified, stop the machine, isolate, tag, and report to your supervisor.